And welcome everybody to the Daily Space Weather, the regular feature here on YouTube at the Smash News Network, least busted name in news. And we saw a bit of a dud as far as the coronal mass ejection strike yesterday. We'll get to it. First thing we're looking at is the magnetohydrodynamic pressure. And it looks like it may be subsiding here a little bit. We do see an ongoing coronal hole high-speed stream, which is, I believe, the reason that yesterday's coronal mass ejection signal was so pretty much non-existent. I believe the coronal mass ejection was entirely swept up and did very little to the coronal hole high-speed stream except add to its magnetism. So anyway, this is the past 4 hours of magnetohydrodynamic pressure modeled in nanopascals around planet Earth. Again, as the high-speed coronal hole wind stream continues, which is the main signal that we saw yesterday. We'll get to it when we look at the real-time solar wind. Now that we've looked at Earth's magnetic moment from space, here's Earth's magnetic moment from the ground. There were definitely lots of aurora showing up last night. Make sure you follow us on Twitter for all kinds of interesting shares. Consider becoming a member of the Smash team for some additional info as well. Some interesting facts about Twitter recently posted at smashomash.com/smash team. Anyway, that's the past 4 hours of geospace delta B modeled in nanotesla magnetic flux density from Earth's surface. So there's our geomagnetic storm. It did make it to KP6. Pretty significant geomagnetic storm there. Again, I think the magnetic field of the coronal hole high-speed stream was just enhanced by the coronal mass ejection, which had its signal nearly erased by the high-speed plasma. So let's take a look at the real-time solar wind here. And this signature right here looked very much like a coronal hole high-speed stream. We saw the density come up, but only a little bit over 10. And the density dropped down a bit, and the speed came up and stayed up. So I believe this moment here, around midnight, this morning on the 15th, just after midnight, about 0:30, we saw the field decrease in strength, and the BZ, the vertical component of the magnetic field, the orientation shifted to a northward BZ. That's the red line. I believe that was the final passing of the coronal mass ejection. And what we're left with is an ongoing coronal hole high-speed stream. Now this portion here looks a little bit like an additional coronal hole high-speed stream. You see the density comes up, drops back down, and then the velocity comes up at the same time. That's the standard signature. It is also accompanied by a change in the BTBZ and a change in the plasma temperature. So this solid signal you see here at all looks a lot like a coronal hole high-speed stream once again. Let's continue on. No relativistic electrons. No relativistic protons, rather. At least none besides the background levels, as measured by the GOES-16. GOES magnetometer should smooth out here a little bit, although there is a continued coronal hole high-speed stream, so we may see continued spiky sawtooth readings here. I think it's going to get a little bit more smooth-looking today. Keep in mind, this is midnight local time for the GOES-16. This is noon local time for the GOES-16 satellite at its geosynchronous near equatorial orbit. Next, go into the heliospheric current sheet. Earth remains in a North Pole current sheet, shown here in green. And I would expect us to remain in a North Pole current sheet for the foreseeable future. Although there is some additional activity rising in the northeast, that will change things. Give it a couple of days. Keep in mind the magnetic environment can rather suddenly change, and it has. Sunspots have grown since yesterday. So here's a line of sight view, and we can expect to see additional magnetic organization happening. We'll show you more on that in a minute. First, the coronal hole line of sight plot. It shows you the sun's B field in blue. You can see some North Pole oriented coronal holes shown here in green, just rotating in. Next, a visual, 193 angstroms, a bunch of North Pole oriented coronal holes here. Coronal holes are the story of the day. Again, they are most likely what is responsible, and their high-speed plasma output, for yesterday's lack of a coherent coronal mass ejection signal. We've got a huge uptick in the solar X-ray profile, so we'll get to that in a minute too. First, we'll move on to sunspots. Likelihood of flares continues to go up quite a bit. Sunspot 2991 has grown. We also got the naming of Sunspot 2990. So Sunspot 2988 has degraded to plage. 2989 is beta class, and so is Sunspot 2990, making them slightly more likely to produce solar flares. And Sunspot 2991 has become beta class as well since we did show prep. There's also a quite active region rising behind Sunspot 2989, behind the northeast limb there. It's Sunspot 2975 making a return appearance. So let's take a look at sunspots here in 1700 angstroms. And we've added 94 angstroms to create a little more exciting visual. We're also going to zoom in on both the northeast and the southeast. It's where our sunspots are located. So let's do it! Likelihood of flares goes way up, folks. And we've seen the sun enter into a significant C-class background profile. The background X-ray output of the sun right now is in the C range. There's 2989 and 2990. And you can see some activity from the former sunspot 2975 rising behind it. Here's 2991. This has increased in complexity since yesterday as well. That's 24 hours. All of these videos from today are 24 hours of solar activity. Data from the SDO, that's 94 angstroms plus 1700. Did you know that we're on BitChute? Did you know that our views have recently dropped about 80% on BitChute? Check it out. 2000, 2115, 2112, a great Rush album. Now, yesterday's video, less than 500. Figure that one out. Is it going the way of YouTube with pathetic censorship? Who knows? We already did stream a video live to Twitch today. If you haven't seen that one, head to twitch.tv/SmashoMash. We're putting up exclusive content on all of our video hosting sites. If you want to support the content, consider becoming a member of the Smash Team at smashomash.com/SmashTeam. Join at the gold or silver or gold annual paid-up subscription level. That's the best value. At any gold level subscription, you can get a complimentary at smashomash.com email address, as well as complimentary merch for the annual paid-up subscribers. Hit us up at smashomash.com if you'd like additional content. Welcome to the Neo-Renaissance. Make sure you don't visit our websites. They're very dangerous. They're full of facts. Smashomash.com. We are still in the process of composing a publication to plausibly explain the mechanism underlying the solar polar field reversal and solar sunspot cycles. Perhaps help us out with that by becoming a member of the Smash Team, pressing like, subscribe, etc. So check it out, the background X-ray profile here. That's not really what you'd even call a flare. That's just sort of the X-ray output, now in the C-class range. So major uptick in solar activity here. It's getting pretty violent. And there you go. Some serious X-ray flux density happening there, showing up on the GOES X-ray graph. This will give you some indication of the, once again, sudden uptick in solar activity. I mean, the radial flux is only up to 103, but the X-ray profile is way up. So the likelihood of solar flares is way up as well, folks. We've also got coronal mass ejections to cover, so let's blast through some more data here. That was 335 plus 94 angstroms from the SDO. Composite imagery for your viewing pleasure. If you're up before dawn and you have a clear horizon, you may see Saturn, Mars, Venus, and Jupiter rising ahead of the sun. It's a planetary pileup that's been going on for months. Lots of reasons to look up, and we encourage it. That's in-the-sky.org. Next, a solar system forecast. Here's where stuff is now, heavenly bodies. And here's where things will be in a week. On the 22nd, we will have a gibbous waning moon. Next, some coronagraphs, and we do have additional coronal mass ejections to cover. So let's do it. The view from stereo A at Lagrange 5 and the Soho-Lascaux C3 at Lagrange 1. So check it out from this perspective. And by the way, this is Jupiter right here. Earth would be off in this direction. That's stereo A's coronagraph. And we see CMEs both on the earthly side and on the far side. Doesn't look like we have anything particularly earthly directed, but a pretty spectacular CME once again on the far side of the sun. Let's let that play through. I don't think any of that ejecta is headed in Earth's direction. But in any case, we'll close out this video here with our coronagraph imagery, as it is about time to end this video and create another one. So make sure you view the content on all of our video sharing sites. Press like, subscribe, visit our websites, support the channel however you see fit if you are able and willing to do so. Tell your friends and foes about us, and we'll see you next time at the Smash News Network, Lee's Busted Name in News. May that solar wind be at your back.